When it comes to villains, everybody knows that nobody does it better than Disney. Well, until recently, anyway. And that one of the best parts of watching these villains is when they inevitably break into one of the best songs the movie has to offer. Honestly, is there a single villain song from a Disney movie that hasn't gone on to become a classic or was even considered to be subpar? Seriously, the villain song is one thing that Disney had down to a science for a very long time. But then that leads to the question, is there any non-Disney villain songs that could be considered in the same league as them? And if so, then which one is the best? And those two questions are exactly what I'd like to answer today. But before I get started, I would just like to say that this video might be a bit more lighthearted and not quite as serious as my videos usually are, and that I'll be injecting my personal opinions in here a bit more. So if you'd rather skip over this one, please feel free to. And I'd also like to give my usual disclaimer that there will be some minor spoilers for the subject of this video ahead, so if you don't want anything ruined, just be on the lookout for that. Okay, so to get right into it, I'd say that the greatest villain song to ever come from an animated movie not made by Disney is Toxic Love from Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. Now, personally, I think that on the whole, Ferngully is a pretty good kids movie, but the part that really stands out is the movie's villain, Hexus, the literal embodiment of pollution and death. This guy is absolutely everything you could ever want in a villain. Pure evil, charismatic, desires to turn the earth into a giant wasteland simply because he loves waste, and isn't afraid to get really big and menacing when the situation calls for it. And also, he's voiced by Tim Curry. That alone puts him in the top tier. But seriously, the way he goes from entertaining and charming to completely terrifying and essentially becoming the devil to all these little woodland creatures is brilliant. I mean, look at this. That right there tells you that if this wasn't a kids movie, the heroes would have been totally screwed at that moment, and he knows it. But even then, he still never completely drops his charisma. Really, it's a shame he wasn't in a more famous movie, because the writing for him, combined with Tim Curry, could have made him a legend among animated villains and easily ranked with the best of them. Because not only is he a blast to watch and every bit as frightening as his reputation implies, and even then some, but he also works perfectly as a metaphor for poison and pollution. Because some have complained that the movie ends up sending the wrong message when it comes to the fairies, arguing that instead of saying we need to take better care of the environment, it's saying you don't need to worry about the environment because magical fairies will always be there to protect and save it. And while I'd personally say that's kind of stretching it and that people, even kids, are smarter than to take the movie directly at face value and understand what it's really trying to say, I will concede the point that the fairies being a metaphor for the environment and the animals that live in it probably wasn't the best or could have been done better. But Hexus, on the other hand, was done perfectly. He acts exactly how you'd expect a being of pollution to act, and even the way he's drawn is excellent. Whether he's in his sludge state, a being of smoke, or his final oil form, if you had to imagine what such a being that eats this stuff would look like, he would be it. But the metaphor even extends to his underlying personality. At first he seems friendly and harmless, then he's extremely charming, but starting to show his dangerous side. and then finally drops all pretenses and just tries to destroy everything. And if that isn't one of the most perfect representations of our changing views on pollution out there, I don't know what is. Let's face it, Hexus is pollution, both inside the movie and out. In other words, when it comes to him, the writers couldn't have done a better job, except for maybe casting Tim Curry to give such a being its voice. And speaking of that, now let's get into the song itself, also sung to absolute perfection by Curry. Now, the version that's shown in the movie is good, but it's the version on the soundtrack album that really deserves the recognition. Now, sure, it does start to skirt the line for not being appropriate for children, but as many have pointed out, being a being of all things dirty, he obviously has the dirtiest song in the movie. But still, even if the song is great, I can see why they had to edit it so much for the movie. Either way, though, the point is, if you hear that full version once, you'll have it stuck in your head for the rest of your life. Seriously, a song about acid rain and oil and grime should not be so pleasant to listen to. And yet, the melody, combined with Tim Curry's perfect rendition, can't help but make you almost want to be on his side, even as he sings about his desire to destroy the world and everything in it, including you. In other words, it's everything a villain song should be. Explains the villain's plans, motivation, and personality, while also being extremely enjoyable to listen to the point that you almost want to root for him instead. Admit it, that's what every good villain song does. And what makes it even more impressive in this case is that he's doing nothing to hide his evil nature or intentions. And yet the song is just so good that you can't help but love it regardless. Because I can only speak for myself here, but personally, I could listen to the full version of this song for hours and never get tired of it. Okay, so if I haven't made it obvious enough already, I think that Fern Gully The Last Rainforest has one of the best villains and villain songs of any animated movie not released by Disney ever. Heck, I might even go as far as to say that Hexus and Toxic Love could rank pretty highly even among Disney villains. Because not only is he perfectly written, as I've already went over, but he's also so fun to watch that many have argued that only Robin Williams himself could compete for the spotlight with him. And while I'm not going to go into the details again, his villain song, though a bit inappropriate, is also so good that if just released on the radio or as part of an album, I honestly think it could do really well. That's how good it is. Now, whether you want to give more credit to Tim Curry, the writers, or the composer of the song, or divide it equally among the three, one can't deny that what's seen and heard on screen is nothing short of perfection. The only downside to all of this, though, is that the movie as a whole isn't considered that great, which is really a shame, because had Hexus and his song been in a more notable movie, he might just be considered one of the best animated antagonists of all time, especially outside of Disney. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say. So now that I've shared my opinion on this, I'd like to hear yours as well. Do you think that Toxic Love might just be the best non-Disney villain song of all time? Or do you believe that there are other songs out there that were better? And does the same go for Hexus as well? Please feel free to discuss your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, you don't have to agree with me here. I was only expressing my opinions here and some minor objective thinking thrown in. You can disagree with every bit of it if you so choose. I only want to express my opinion, not make you agree with it. Thank you all for watching. It is all very greatly appreciated, and I hope to see you all next time.